Java Balls!
Okay, I wanted to do a quick little rundown video before I start this tutorial to show you what you need for this video to do hazard lines on a Space Marine drop pod. Hazard lines are these guys. I know I just did all this a second ago, but there they are, the hazard lines on a drop pod door. I just did this tutorial a second ago and you'll see that. But for now, boom. Here's what you need. Two colors of yellow. You need Uriel yellow and Flash Gets yellow. You need Averland Sunset base and you need Cassandora yellow, which is a shade. I recommend that you pre-mix some glazed medium into your paints, which is what I do. Pre-mix glazed medium. You need a little bit of Nuln Oil shade. You need a dark gray. I use Andrea Color. You get a nice set to How to Paint Black from Andrea Color, and this is number 4 from the set. Black also works for this if you wish. And you need scissors and boom, 1/2-inch masking tape. So gather up these things before. Oh, and finally you need Lead Belcher GW paint. Gather up these things and get yourself ready to go. And hold on tight because here comes the tutorial. Hi, it's Java Balls. How are you guys? Good to see you. Today I'm going to be doing a demonstration on how to paint hazard stripes on a Space Marine drop pod. Space Marine drop pod, hazard stripes. The hazard stripes come down, around all the edges of the doors on my little pod here. So, how to do this? First, you'll need some 1/2-inch masking tape. And you can find this. Actually, it's not easy to find 1/2-inch masking tape. They don't sell it at Home Depot or Staples or Walmart, at least. I had to buy it online. I bought it on Amazon. 1/2-inch masking tape. And you need scissors. Just to get yourself started before you do anything else, get your 1/2-inch masking tape and tear off about a foot long piece. And then stick it to your table, just on the edge of your desk. So, 1/2-inch masking tape, scissors, and the rest is fairly simple. You're going to be amazed at how easy this is and how quick. So, first thing you do, let me redirect you to my space here. First thing you do is you take the tape that you've pre-stuck to something. Watch out for my invasive belly. And then you will cut yourself about 8 pieces of it, and each piece would be about a foot long, or an inch long, I mean. A foot long. Thinking $5 foot long. You can take them, you can stick them to whatever, pots of paint on your workstation, the glue. Or stick them right to the edge of your desk as well. Or stick them on your fingers. Just get like 8 pieces. It doesn't matter if the ends are straight at all. And here we go. Let me zoom you in even further so you can see what I'm doing. So, take one of your pieces, and on the side of your pod door, this is where you're going to be painting, put the side edge of the tape all the way to the end, the very point of the door. All the way to the point. And then angle the tape once you get there so that you're at a perpendicular angle to the door. Perpendicular means 90-degree angle. So you want there to be a 90-degree angle down the side of the tape to the side of the door. And smooth that out. Then you take the rest of your pieces and you apply them. Each flat against the previous edge. And work your way up the door. As you stick your pieces on, smooth them out along the corner of the door. I hope the audio is working on this. I hope I don't have to dub video or audio over this video. I forgot to check and see if this camera has functional audio. I guess we'll find out in a little while, huh? And that's what it looks like. Because now what you're going to do is then tear off every other piece. I'm going to leave the one on the end engaged. I'm going to tear off the second, the fourth, and the sixth. Boom. I now have perfectly lined up masking tape. So I'll switch to the other side now. Just use the same pieces I had just used previously. Put it on the tip of the door. Angle the piece of tape so that it's at a perpendicular 90-degree angle and lined up with the point of the door. There we go. Then just lay in my pieces of tape. Now I show you this because years ago when I first painted drop pods for my army, I did this by hand. I used a ruler and pencils and I hand painted all the stripes. It took literally hours and hours and hours of time. So much so that I vowed never to do a drop pod again with hazard lines because it just was so time consuming. And this little process eliminates all of that time consuming labor. Because the next step is so super easy, the painting part. I'll show you. Okay, so I got all my pieces of tape on. I'm going to firmly edge them. And rip off every other one. Boom. Done. Now, for the painting. I'm going to zoom out a little bit. For this job, I'm using a number 2 Reaper Kolinsky sable brush. And I'm going to use my Averland Sunset base paint. One of these, I actually mixed in some medium because this stuff gets chunky. This is the one. So the base paint gets chunky over time. The particles of pigment inside the paint tend to clump together. And well, I hope this is the one. I don't know, we'll find out. So what I did was I poured a bunch of glaze medium in there. This is Vallejo glaze medium to help just add more fluid to the paint to help separate the pigments. This is awful thick. Whoops. So now I'm just painting the open spaces with this paint. I don't think this is not the one that I got to put the fluid in. You don't want it to be too thick. You don't really want brush strokes to show up and remain behind when you paint. Let me try one of the other pots here. I've got like 3 pots of this stuff and they're all awfully thick. Oh god, this is just super thick. That's not it. Oh, let me show you what I do. For some reason, I can't find the paint that I mixed up last night. Yeah, this is so chunky. Okay, so to help fix chunky paint, here you go. A little extra tutorial. Pour a bunch in there. All depends on how old and how chunky your paint is. And then I use a piece of sprue as my little stir. Why? Because I use the ones part where it hooks around the corner of the sprue, and then you can dig the paint off the side edges of the inner pot with it. So this will thin your color. It will thin the transparency or opaqueness of the paint a bit. You're actually making it into a very thick glaze versus a paint. A glaze is a watered down version of a paint. Not so much that it's going to really have a huge impact on how it works, but it will thin the paint. It will thin the pigment of it, the intensity. I'm just chopping and chunking and pushing and breaking up the chunks of paint. And there you go. Many people have asked how to restore chunky old paint. That's how you do it. You got a paper towel and wipe up the mess I just made with the medium. Here we are. You see what I'm doing? More or less. That flows better. So when I paint this, I focus with the tip of my brush on the top edge of the stripe. There's little air bubbles in the little dimples here. Just excavating those out. You know, you want the top edge to grab the paint, and then you want the paint to kind of diffuse as it gets towards the bottom. This will create a natural gradient, a natural light to dark in the value of the paint. It's better to work in several layers than it is to try and get the paint all at once to cover the surface you're painting. That way you won't end up with thick looking streaky paint. You'll get the coverage, the same coverage, but it'll be in layers. So we'll let that dry for a little while. While that's dry, I'm going to prep my next door. So I'm going to get the tape cut. Just cut a whole bunch of pieces of it. It dries in just a few minutes. It's warm in here and helps the paint dry. So it's good to be back, YouTube. I'm here. I'm playing in the tournament this weekend. I'm going to have battle reports. I haven't played games of 40K in forever. And this week I'm going to actually have battle reports. I'm going to make a video today of my list I'm bringing this weekend to the tournament. Battle for Salvation. And I'm going to put that up there, my 1750 drop pod list. The army itself is ramshackle to my standards, but you know, I threw it together in less than a week to try and get ready for the tournament. Pardon me while I'm totally off camera working and the camera's just looking at my belly. Alright, and a whole bunch of those things. That should be sufficiently dry. I'm going to show you the next step to finish painting this. And I'm going to use yellow. I pre-pot my yellow into droppers. And I add medium to this already. And I think this is Uriel yellow. That's the first one. There's Uriel and Flash Gits. And I think Uriel's number 1. I used to have just number 1 on there. Because it's the first one you use when layering yellow. And the tape wore off. So now I don't know what the name of this paint is. I always just called it number 1. And what you're going to do with this is just take a little bit of it on the tip of your brush. Here, let me zoom in so you can see. And you're going to drag that across the top. Just back and forth a little bit. And if you can see the effect it immediately had, it just kind of highlights the top. That's all you want. This accentuates that gradient that you created already. If some of the black still shows through, that's perfectly fine. Like on the front here, that's okay. It just kind of creates more of a artistically yellow, darkened area. Boom, done. These hazard stripes are finished. You could, if you wished, end it here. Be done with it. Be done with your hazard stripes. I'm not that way though. I'm going to tear off all the tape. You're going to see little spots of yellow have seeped through because this model is not assembled all that great. And the lines aren't flush and there's little creases, and I might not have pushed hard enough on sealing the tape down. So you see areas where the yellow seeped through. Easy to fix. What I use is black. Actually, it's a gray that I'm going to use for this, because I'm going to wash over it with black. So this is, when I do black, I do Andrea color. There's a series of 6 shades of gray, working up to almost a pure black. And this helps you to do your black with highlighting and all that, so it doesn't look so black. And I'm going to use this color. And I'm going to paint each of the black sections. Just being careful when I get to the edge of the color. Well, usually when I get to the edge, I'll just do a quick swipe. It's better to be deliberate and fast on the edge than to be dabby and sketchy. The more times you touch the brush up against the surface, the more likely you are to mess it up. With practice, you can get your own hand to be steady as you do this yourself. I might make that look a lot easier than it is. Sorry. Take into consideration that I'm also doing this backwards from my point of view so that you can see it on the camera. I don't ever paint with the brush facing away from me like this. Only for you guys. There's a little bit of yellow paint in that dimple there. Oh well, it'll live there. Voila! I'll let that dry before I work on the final step. Already looks pretty sharp. So while that's drying, I'm going to try and avoid touching it, and I'll put the tape on the next piece. Line the edge of the tape up with the tip of the door. Make sure it's a 90-degree angle. Quick and easy hazard lines. Part of my meat hands blocking the view. Do my best not to do that, but sometimes it just has to happen. Line them up, pull them off. Boom. Other side. Tip of the door, 90-degree angle. If you line it up nicely, you'll find that the 1/2-inch tape fits perfectly in the armor plates of the door. So some of the armor plates are raised higher than others, and you'll see that the 1/2-inch tape measures out to perfectly fit. Boom, boom, and boom. All right. Let me see. So while that's drying, I'm going to come back and use my Casandora Yellow. This is a Citadel GW shade. And you use this on the yellow you just painted. So the way to do this is you do the opposite of what you just did. On the opposite, you use the top edge to grab the paint. That created the highlight on the top. Now you're going to put the yellow in across the bottom. Let the bottom kind of grab it. What this does is it enriches the value that you've already added, the fading you've done, and it accentuates it. Don't need a lot. Okay. I hate these paint pots. So while that's drying, I'm gonna do the next one. No sense in waiting for paint to dry. Sorry for not being on frame. My apologies. Very difficult to do this. Boom. Put that away for now. I'm going to come back now and do the dark parts of my doors. For this, I'm going to use a black wash. They call it a Nuln oil, I think. There's my Nuln oil. Just like I did with the yellow wash. gonna let the bottom edge kind of grab it. Am I on camera here? How we doing? You want the black to kind of build up on the bottom edge. Voila. While we're waiting for that to dry, I'll show you one of the last steps. This is pretty much done. Just a final highlight on the yellow, a final highlight on the black, and a cleanup here. We're using lead belcher because I paint the insides of my pod just silver. So I'm just going to take the lead belcher right down the inside edge of the pod door. This is fairly simple. The door makes it kind of easy. The shape of the door makes it fairly easy to paint. Just kind of follow the edge all the way. Being steady. A very good brush helps for this. I recommend you always paint with a Kolinsky Sable brush. Synthetic bristles just don't do it for you. Believe me, one of the first and best ways I ever improved my own painting was to get a nice brush. Winsor and Newton make some good ones, but they're very expensive. You know, my point here with brushes is that you've already spent so much money on these models. You might as well spend the money on your brushes too. Some people will say, oh, you know, I buy the cheap ones at Michael's and they work fine. Sure, they work fine for a few days. Then the bristles start to get bad. Then you gotta buy a new one. And then a new one. Before you've done it, you've spent more money on those brushes than you would on an expensive Winsor and Newton brush. Or Reaper Kolinsky Sable. For your last step, you get your Flash Gitz yellow. Flash Gitz is a slightly lighter yellow. Let me get my pot. It's a slightly lighter yellow. Again, I've pre-mixed my yellow with some medium. And I put it in these little dropper pots. You can get these on Amazon, probably like 50 of them for $5. And it's the same process. You might want to wait on doing the metallic until after you've done this. It's actually, I do this kind of when the wash is still a bit wet. So the wash kind of mixes in with the highlight. How's that look? You like? By all means, you can stop at this point. If you want, you can add another highlight of gray, which I'm going to do. Just back to my first one with the number 4 Andrea paint. Just right across the top there. Real fast on this. And that is how you do it, folks. There you are. Quick and easy, down and dirty, easy peasy hazard lines. And we zoom back out. I hope you liked that video. And by all means, please look down and hit like and subscribe. Jawa Balls is back. Expect a lot more great content. I'm going to be uploading paint tutorials, and I'm going to be uploading battle reports, and I'm going to be uploading strategy and tactical stuff. So I'm back, baby. Good to see you guys. Where's that button?